Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of February 19, 2025. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boys, at a very special time, and it truly is so special now. Powerful energies are with us, and this week, Mercury ends up being this powerful mediating factor. And it is through Mercury that we're able to make the most of what's best, but also turn what it is that might feel challenging into opportunity. Now, you add to this the fact that this week brings with it the most intense day of the year, as some astrologers call it. Well, you can see we've got a lot to talk about. So let's start with Mercury, because it is going to be, as we begin this week, that Mercury ends up helping us to move through energies that otherwise would be rather difficult. Now, the difficult energies, that has to do with Saturn meeting Venus in the sky. This is a principle of patience, restriction, of understanding where you're playing the long game and understanding what it is that's actually worth being patient for, what it is that you're actually going for in a greater sense, in a higher sense. This energy invites you to consider your desires themselves. That's the Venusian energy at play. But to go beyond that and to understand that there are higher desires yet to be fulfilled. There's what feels good in a moment, but that is not likely to satisfy us very much right now. We want something that feels as if there is this delayed gratification, but also a payoff to that delay as well. But I would also add, it's almost like what we earn is that much sweeter to us. And what it is that we feel we've put our time and energy and sacrifice into, well, we tend to value it a lot more. And there's going to be some understanding that a lot of us out there are having in this regard. What's worth waiting for, and where it is that it's okay to cut your losses. So that serious energy of Venus conjunct Saturn ends up being negated thanks to the fact that Mercury is speaking in harmony with this configuration. Now, if it were just Venus in Pisces, that is so very lush. But then you add Saturn into the mix, and it ends up bringing this grounding principle, an anchoring principle, ultimately a principle that says that be honest with yourself while it is that you are wanting more pleasure, more joy, a more lush existence. What is it that brings you genuine joy, and why? What is it that feels pleasurable or satisfying? And to be honest with yourself, what's at the root of that? And again, what is it that you're really going for? Because we can distract ourselves very easily with the superficial. However, with a week like this, we're just not going to be able to get away with it. But at least with Mercury involved, we're able to practice healthy detachment. We're able to remove ourselves just enough so that we can understand what it is that we might be feeling. Now, Venus and Saturn, when it is that they speak, this can signify a couple of other things as well. Now, on one level, Venus and Saturn can speak to technical proficiency, especially where it comes to Venusian matters. Now, that might be related to love, but that can also be connoisseurism. Feeling as if you want to be more discerning in whatever it is, whether you are enjoying it in terms of what you are eating, what you're smelling, what you're consuming. It's about being able to identify subtleties and to appreciate them that much more. It is Venus meeting Saturn, though, that has also been conceptualized as representing divine love, or at least the invitation to align with such. Considering that both Venus and Saturn are in the sign of Pisces, which has to do with merging, and it has to do with a universal sense of connection and love itself, well, we can see how getting serious about and wanting to make real that very sense of connection to everyone and everything that allows us to feel an infusion of love in our lives right where we are, well, that is very likely going to feel that much stronger at this time. However, Mercury is in an earth sign. It is in the sign of Capricorn. Now that in and of itself is about understanding what you're really going for in a higher sense and connecting whatever our desires are with purpose. Just because this is a reality check energy doesn't mean that it has to be bad. What it means is being honest with ourselves about what is real. And the truth is, especially with these energies in Pisces, what is most real just might be what's happening on levels of soul. It might be the deeper truths, the deeper lessons that lead us to our deeper truths that are being activated very profoundly now. The way through the heart is ultimately to the destination of the soul. Sometimes that work takes effort or at least intention. And then sometimes it feels spontaneous, like a gift. And as much as those spontaneous times of wonder and insight feel that much more elated, right? It's a high in and of itself. There's nothing like knowing that you were patient with yourself and you were patient with the journey of your higher power so that you could make the most of the moments along the way towards tapping into the power of the soul and what it is that the soul is here to do with this lifetime. Now, also on Sunday, we have the sun changing signs, moving into the sign of Aquarius. So happy birthday to all the Aquarians out there. We are starting Aquarius season here, and it is during Aquarius season that we tend to start thinking more about feeling that much more open to the world, open to new experiences, but also open to being truly ourselves, like authentically ourselves, perhaps in a way that we might not have allowed ourselves to be for a while. Remember, we're coming out of Capricorn season. Capricorn season is about hard work. It is about understanding that you are building and that every effort made right now contributes to some larger legacy that you're creating in small moments along the way. But Aquarius has been conceptualized as an energy that represents second childhood. And so this is about allowing yourself to enjoy, to play, to have fun, to know that in some ways we did what it was that we set out to do, and now we're going to, in some ways, enjoy the fruits of it. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean sitting back. Actually, depending on your sign, like for example, if you are an earth sign, this is where you are more likely to put in more time or put in more work. And while this move into Aquarius season happens right around the same time every year, and again, it lasts a month, what's different this time, what's going to be different for the next 20 years, is that as the sun moves into the sign of Aquarius, it means that the sun is gearing up to meet Pluto. And when the sun meets Pluto, that is considered the most intense day of the year. In this case, it is as soon as the sun enters the sign of Aquarius on Sunday that we can feel the intensity begin to build very quickly, and it peaks on Tuesday, after which time it will very quickly dissipate. Now, the most intense day of the year, I don't say that lightly. For some, this is going to be more challenging than others. It is the energy of Pluto that is of fate. Now, your relationship to fate, how you understand it, well, that's going to be a personal decision, really. Is it that you want to orient yourself around a world, around a universe that is here to infuse your life with love, to remind you of love, and to help you to get rid of any walls or anything superficial that gets in the way of you knowing that divine love that much more? Is your relationship with the universe going to be one where you feel like everything is set up to move you towards greater love and greater wisdom? Because that is going to be an important viewpoint, an important worldview to root yourself in, especially as we're beginning this week and we feel this intensity growing. Because we can lose ourselves in the intensity if we allow it. And sometimes it's what we lose that actually is the greatest blessing. But there are certain things that aren't about what you lose, it's about what you remember. And it is about remembering yourself, your true self, that this energy is going to invite you to do. And so life is filled with things that can feel stressful, that can have us feeling afraid, things that will inspire every type of uncertainty within us, stuff that feels stressful, stuff that feels unfair. And for some of us, we just might be having to look at that. But life can also be filled with incredible opportunities, and especially those that come right after what appears to be a loss. Well, it helps us to cultivate deeper trust in the universe that much more. Sometimes the universe needs to create space for something even better to rush in. And sometimes it is that we can scare ourselves. We can feel all the feels, like every imaginary scenario, fill our minds, fill our souls, and then at the end of it, what was it all worth? When at the end of the day, what it was that was to be good for us is what's going to occur anyways. And so, yes, lots of stuff in any given life that can feel hard, that can feel unfair, but there's also a lot in any given life to be inspired by, to feel encouraged by, that can give us real reasons for hope. And so I see this as a moment of choice, a moment of decision for a lot of us out there. How are you going to determine that relationship? That's what the most intense day of the year often asks each of us in our own unique ways. Now, stay tuned to the end of the video for the short horoscopes. I'll probably circle back around to this energy as we move through the overview, but know that it is with the short horoscopes that I will go through the most intense day of the year for each and every sign, because it really is that important, that valuable an energy to take into consideration now. So as we navigate further, remember, we have this energy peaking the exact conjunction of the Sun and Pluto perfects on Tuesday, after which time this energy very quickly dissipates. And Thursday, boy, does the energy ever switch up remarkably so. That is when we are going to have Mars speaking in harmony with Uranus. This is a key moment of the larger Mars retrograde season. And when these two planets speak in this way, it is a time that can feel energizing, fortunate, filled with opportunity, and enlivening as well. Because it involves a retrograde planet, it means that what has us feeling so awake and so enlivened, well, it represents something coming back around. Perhaps that we were uncertain about and didn't know that we actually needed a renewal of connection to. Think back to what was taking place in your life, in particular going back to October of 2024. Because where Mars was in October, especially the first to middle part of October, well, that's where Mars is now. And it was back in October that Mars made its first harmonious connection to Uranus. Now here comes the second. We're going to get another one once we navigate further after Mars goes direct in February. I'll be here to talk about it every step of the way. But this energy is one of feeling energized very quickly, feeling free, feeling fortunate. And it's a type of good fortune that has us feeling the verve of life, a renewed vitality, a buoyancy that we can feel physically in some way. Now, there are different things that can get us to this point, right? It can be joy, elation, love, desire, a sense of progress, a sense of us moving in directions that are joyous to us, that are fulfilling to us, that has us feeling strong and empowered. an opportunity that feels like we're able to very quickly work towards making things better for ourselves. And I find it fascinating that this energy takes place right after we have that very intense, most intense day of the year on Tuesday. It's after that, on Thursday, that we get to this lightness of energy. And then here comes Mercury in the mix as well, because on the same day, Mercury will stand across the sky from Mars, but also speak in supreme harmony with Uranus. So if it was just that Mercury and Mars, that in and of itself can suggest some confrontation, but I think a lot of that is going to be negated, and that is because of all that other wonderful harmonious energy. With Mercury, it ends up being a larger configuration at play here. It is Mercury speaking in supreme harmony with Uranus that represents good news, very fortunate news, surprise news that brings delight, that brings a sense of excitement and a sense of what just might be possible for us. With Mars in the mix, we are spurred to action. But it might be that we don't actually get to that place of recognizing what's good until we first approach a moment that might feel challenging. Maybe we're facing a fear. Maybe we're having to have a difficult conversation or exchange. But it is in navigating these moments that we find breakthrough within it. Tough moments, tough spots in life, it's not about avoiding them. They are part of the human experience. It is part of the world that we've co-created together. But it is rather exciting to consider how it is and where it is that sometimes those challenges are necessary because they serve as a launching point towards wide-reaching blessings. And that's what I'm seeing here. Because we have here this fortunate energy in and of itself in Mars and Uranus. And then we get this fortunate energy in and of itself of Mercury and Uranus. But you make it part of a larger configuration, and you can see here it's what we're talking about, it's what we're feeling, it's what we're acting upon, it's what we're realizing on a mind level, it's what has us feeling alive, filled with surprise, but also new ideas that bring genuine joy. Finally, we end the week with Venus trine Mars. I love this energy. Venus and Mars have been conceptualized as cosmic lovers. This is a phrase that we have seen repeated again and again for many, many years. Astrologers love using this phrase as well. But this cosmic loverness of these two planets means that they're very attracted to each other. They complement each other. But when they speak in supreme harmony, they really get along. And so as a general principle for all of us, this is heart meeting action. This is a sense of what love can make possible and can put forward. Where we initiate from a place of heart, the journey feels that much easier, regardless of what journey it is. But of course, there are strong romantic connotations to this energy, and a lot of us are going to be invited to find a point of understanding or reconciliation about where we are in love, how we feel about it, and being open to love at the same time as well. This is energy of enthusiasm, but also energy that says love itself can be a joy. Sometimes love is work. Sometimes partnership can feel challenging, but then there are times when there's a sense of awareness around where, as a result of love, and just about any kind of love, not necessarily romantic, but how love makes us better, makes us bolder, makes us feel stronger, makes us more courageous. Perhaps the courage and the strength was always there anyways. It's just that now we become that much more aware of it. And it's just that now when we're willing to see and willing to appreciate through love itself, that we're able to recognize those moments where past and present, we actually are demonstrating great bravery. And whether that is in meeting new people, whether that is in terms of how we approach any of our goals, whatever it is that we might be going for, and whether that is in our deeper understanding of where our heart is guiding us to go. When we live from a place of heart, it is very hard not to actually be courageous. We lack courage when it is that we are living in spaces within us that cannot be described as heart, right? When we're overthinking, that's our fear. And fear cannot reside in heart. But where it is that we're willing to even a little bit say, okay, regardless of what patterns might have been there before, regardless of what I might have gone through before, today I'm going to choose to be willing to hear what it is that love is leading me towards. That willingness in and of itself is an act of bravery. That willingness can have us taking chances, taking actions. And the thing is, it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. It creates its own momentum where one little insight, one brief understanding can make all the difference in helping us to appreciate where it is that perhaps in moments where we thought that love wasn't there, love, heart, gentleness, kindness, it was always there. And it is these very attributes that become part of a foundation of us being able to go out there in the world with that much more confidence and certainty in ourselves and in our ability, but also our right to be there, to take up space, to stand, to be strong, and to understand ourselves. These are all acts of bravery. They're acts of bravery that are harder for some than others, but at least now with Venus trine Mars, the steps themselves become that much easier to navigate and start nonetheless. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. I'm going to say I love Mars sextile Uranus. I think that energy is the star of the show now. And that energy can be so profound, so meaningful, so filled with depth, but it's also a reemergence, a reawakening, a sense of verve and excitement that's available to us. Mars has us on quite a journey in the second part of the week, not only connecting with Mars, but of course standing across the sky from Mercury. I feel like that is a moment of claiming some truth for ourselves, and we need to do that so that then on the other side, we might welcome in those Venusian blessings. We might see and recognize all the ways in which we are stronger than we've given ourselves credit for. We are braver than we previously were able to appreciate that we actually are. Of course, you have it within you to give, and some people experience life more sensitively than others. And what's bravery to one might not be to another. And there's a lot of thrill seeking as well. I'm going to insert here, I don't know if with all my reducing background noise, if you could hear screaming going on. Probably you could. This is what's been going on right on the other side of this balcony over the Gold Coast of Australia at the FAA conference. And for some people, this is bravery. And if that's you, that's great. For some people, this is fun or adrenaline or joy, and you may or may not identify that as bravery. But what bravery looks like for different people and what it means different things for different people. And yet it all gets us to the same place, awakening our Mars. But when Venus is there as well, we bring love along for the journey. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiaShawSuperstars.com. where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space at NadiaShawSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. And thank you. What a wonderful time I've had in Australia. It's not quite over just yet. As we begin this week, I've got a workshop taking place on Black Moon Lilith on Monday, and it's here in what's called the Las Vegas of Australia, or at least of the Gold Coast. And that's really exciting. And then I will head back to Brisbane on Tuesday, and then I start the journey home on Thursday. So I'll be back home soon enough before the week is out, just in time for my solar return. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm so very grateful for all of you for watching, for walking this journey with me. I'm grateful for all the people who've come up to me, who've appreciated my work, who've let me know, and for all the people who show up in one way or another for themselves and see something in what I offer that adds to their spiritual soul journey. For all of it, I am so grateful. So announcements are going to be kept really low right now. Keep an eye out. I'm hoping that Synchronicity University new programs begin to be announced this week. Fingers crossed. Having said that, also stay tuned. Short horoscopes are coming up right now where we look at the most intense day of the year for each and every sign. I know it can feel like a lot when we have this intensity at play. And yet, ultimately, this just might represent a moment. And how we navigate this moment really is going to come down to how much we are willing to root ourselves in a relationship with the universe that insists, that is convinced that we are guided by love and wisdom towards greater love and wisdom in all moments and at all times. That is the invitation of this moment now. And it's an invitation worth accepting because it makes the journey that much easier, that much more enriching and successful as well, regardless of how you uniquely define success. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. The most intense day of the year takes place when the sun meets Pluto in the sky. Get ready to feel it all, to feel it with intensity, and in some cases, overwhelmingly so. Now, intensity means different things to different people. Some of us are adrenaline intensity junkies. We just might chase it. Intensity means different things to different people. Well, whatever it means to you, you are about to feel it in the most intense day of the year. When the sun meets Pluto in the sky, well, this can be a game changer. It invites us to get honest, to feel it all, to realize what stays and what goes, to realize what isn't working, what's draining us, what's tiring us on a soul level, and where it is that maybe we're pushing really hard for something that isn't meant to go any further. This is a very all or nothing energy, but the thing is, very often, life has a lot more nuance than we give it credit for. But energy like this says we're not likely to see it. It's important to be especially kind and gentle with ourselves and, if possible, with others. For some, it's going to feel like people come or go, people behave in ways that are especially dramatic, unfair, where it is that there are certain connections where we feel that situations are abusive or manipulative in some way. I'm so sorry to say we may feel an awakening of that at this time. But for all that, there's also the real potential here that we just might have a catalyst moment, a moment that serves to move through our lives with a sweeping sense of all that could change, and in some cases very quickly. It's going to be rooted in some truth, but more importantly, rooted in what it is that is no longer acceptable to us. What it is that we've given way too much energy to, that we now feel drained. Well, this is where we start to realize the power of conservation, the power of focusing in on ourselves, and the power of rebuilding. The wonderful thing about being human is we have the ability to transform and to re-emerge, to reinvent. Where it is that we must, we do. Where it is that it feels right, we will. But it is in these very moments that we come to understand something about what we're really made of, what's really going on within us, and what is at our core. And where it is that we are guided by trust in the universe, that what stays will be good and what is not good for us will leave. Well, it becomes that much more likely that we're able to recognize the opportunity. The important way of navigating this time is try not to hold on to anything too tightly, but also know that whatever it is in our lives, it has a will of its own now. Our own feelings may feel inconvenient and have a will of their own as well. And so, I like to say, pace yourself and be yourself. That's going to be really hard to do, and yet that is what we must do if we're going to move through the sun meeting Pluto in the sky. There are two faces of Pluto meeting the sun. One is empowered, one is honest and real and clear. The other is filled with betrayal and uncertainty and maybe even profound disappointment as well. Regardless of what it needs to be for you, remember that this energy is honest. And all of us are feeling an energy of extremes at this time. So it's also a good time to be patient with yourself and others. It can be a time when a lot of us are very dramatic, if not overly dramatic. But even within that, there's something real there. That doesn't mean we need to take on anybody else's choices or decisions or behaviors as our own. Far from it. But it does provide us an opportunity to get honest with ourselves about what we give and what we get to the people, places, things, and situations in our lives, and whether or not it's still working for us. Well, that's what starts to become abundantly clear now. Now, what area of life you are likely to feel all the feels, all the energies, the ups and downs, and all the extremes? Well, it does depend on your sun, moon, and rising sign. Take all three into consideration and then synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And of course, for more horoscopes, check out my YouTube channel, Nadia Shah, and the Superstar Space over at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, friendships, group alliances, where you've given way too much to a particular group endeavor, where it is that a friend has required way too much. Well, have you been filled in the process as well? All of that starts to become a whole lot more clear. Now, for some, this is going to be awareness around power struggles, power games, and where it is perhaps someone you considered a friend really hasn't been very fair to you, maybe even hasn't been very nice to you, and a dramatic display might play out here. But for all that, even that has something honest within it. It is now that you get to decide who stays and who goes, who's a true friend to you and maybe who isn't, and where certain group endeavors bring a genuine sense of valuing your contribution or not. Because if the case is that you don't feel appreciated, that you're giving way more than you're getting back, well, this is a time that can be very all or nothing. Either you're going to be that much more all in, or you're going to cut your losses and go another way. Taurus, the energy is nothing less than absolutely ambitious. Whether that ambitious is career-oriented or the ambition finds itself directed towards some goal or an alignment with what you believe your life purpose to be, you might find yourself digging in very deep to pull forward the energy and the focus that you need to see a project through to fruition. But this might also be a time of cutting your losses, of being honest with yourself about what isn't working. Where it is that you've given so much that you now feel tired, you may need a brief moment to recoup some of those energies and cut your losses. Very dramatic behavior from bosses or people in positions of authority become possible here, and it's up to you to decide whether or not that works for you, because where people have already shown you they are toxic, that tendency seems especially strong now. Now, ultimately, all of this is leading you in a direction of understanding whether or not you can keep doing what you're doing, and whether or not the goals that you're aiming for really are worthy of you. Do they really inspire you? Do they even matter to you anymore? And from that place of personal honesty, you get to decide what does matter, to go another way, to make another choice. Where it is you've been very invested in a particular outcome, well, where it isn't working, it can feel that much more disappointing. And yet, it's almost like some closure might be needed so that even better, even more can come rushing in very quickly. Gemini, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. These are likely to come into focus in powerful ways for you now. Now, ultimately, this is about finding an appreciation about your connection to the larger world, whether that's personal, philosophical, or quite literal. If you are doing any kind of long distance travel or you're involved in a legal matter, this is a time of honest evaluation. Journeys might feel downright tiring. Are they worth continuing? What is it that kicks up for you in the process? If it is that there's a legal matter, a higher education matter, either this is going to be a time when there's a resolution that feels a long time coming, or you realize that you've given a particular circumstance way too much energy, or you've given it your all. How much are you going to participate in a drama that maybe might not be of your creation? Or is it of your creation? Is it worth staying the course? Your answers are going to be uniquely your own. This part of the sky also has to do with your relationship with the world and the beliefs that guide your life, philosophical, spiritual, and political as well. This could be a time of either feeling challenged from outside of you, but also from within you. Either you're going to double down and find that much more commitment to whatever your chosen worldview might be, but it's likely going to come through a moment that feels like an all or nothing moment, a game changer of sorts. And it helps you to get honest about what you really believe and maybe what isn't working for you anymore. Whether you're using what you believe to feel strong through putting other people down, or it's bringing solace by how it is that it lifts you up, well, that's the perspective that's going to be your choice to make. Cancer, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and matters having to do with financial resources. So grants, loans, bursaries, benefits you qualify for. So at least financially, it may not play out like that for many a Cancerian out there, but if that's you, well, this is a time when you're looking at either the resources you have available to you, or maybe you're trying to attract funding in some way, and you feel like you're really giving it your all to make that money come together for you. When we have such strong financial energy, it means that the money you need is there. Sometimes you're engaging spiritual lessons along the way, and in this case, those lessons might feel downright tiring to you in some way now. But for all that, it could also be that you're looking in a particular direction for those resources, and that ain't it. It isn't from there that it's meant to come together. At the very least, this energy will help you to get honest about where you are and how you feel about that and what your choices are. It's going to be very all or nothing in one way or another where it comes to trying to align yourself with a source of funding. However, I think most Cancerians are going to experience this not necessarily in financial matters, but more having to do with examining deeper truths about yourself and understanding what stays and what goes. It's about you engaging this energy that is deeply transformative, deeply empowering when you let it be honest, and especially being honest with you psychologically. So there are going to be closures that take place that very likely are self-initiated, and you're also becoming aware of the secrets that you keep that maybe are not yours to keep anymore. That's how profound a time this is. It is an alchemical process, nothing less. And for some, it just might feel like a rebirth of sorts takes place now. Leo, partnership and love. It has a will of its own. It has a fate of its own. Where it is that there are alliances where you feel that it isn't fair, you feel like someone hasn't been very nice to you, or maybe even been manipulative in some way, you're about to feel that all. Whether it's past or present, this is a turning point moment. And the all or nothing means, are you going to carry that resentment into your future or not? In some cases, people might come in that awaken you on a very deep level, a level that feels fated and passionate. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean long term. For others, this is going to be a notable closure, who it is that leaves now, regardless of how long they were actually around. It ends up changing you in one way or another. Regardless, these energies say your one-on-one alliances, well, they're here to teach you something about you. So keep the lessons about you, not necessarily on the behavior or choices of another. It doesn't really say anything about you, what they decided, whether these are business partnerships or professional alliances. A rebirth of sorts must take place if it's going to navigate strong into the future. Virgo, clients, customers, coworkers, immediate supervisors, and the type of work that you do, along with your health-related habits, that's all covered in this part of the sky. And so if you know that you have certain people, like I just mentioned, who are given to dramatic overtures or maybe can be manipulative, well, some of those toxic traits can kick up pretty strongly now. I'm so sorry to say, but I don't think this is going to be energy that is necessarily a surprise. But for all that, there's also a sense of potential here, a sense of excitement and hope and forward progress, where you're getting really honest about the people in your life, but also the actual work that you're doing. How are you actually living day in and day out? And are you okay with it? Are you okay with continuing doing what it is that you're doing, whether it's for your work or otherwise? Or do you now want to do things different? Now, this could show up in terms of your health as well. A commitment towards being better, feeling better, can have you making very profound changes that get you in touch with what really matters, what's essential, what's going to help you to feel strong. That's what you're going for now. And you may be seeking advice in that regard. But this is the beginning of a deeply transformative process that is going to take slow, steady, patient steps to fully reveal itself. Libra, romance, flirtation, what the heart truly wants in every area of life, fulfillment, and your own fertility, the children in your life. So this is a very rich, heart-oriented part of the sky. A flirtation now, however simple it might look on the surface, well, it has a deep impact, an ability to transform you on profound levels. But it's also possible that a flirtation either goes from 0 to 100 very quickly. Some Libras are really going to enjoy that, find the intensity alluring and addictive, but others might find themselves in a flirtation that does not feel good at all. I'm so sorry to say, but it does happen. Now, ultimately, these energies are about helping you to get honest about what you're really wanting in your heart of hearts, what love is for you, and what and whom you're attracted to. For all that, these energies might not work out that way. This might play out in terms of a creative project, something you've given a lot of time and energy to. Is it something that's meant to go further? Is it something that's meant to be shared, to make an impact? Well, this is a big turning point moment, a moment of honesty for you in that regard. Now, a matter having to do with children you have, children you want, might come into focus. You're making a decisive choice. Some pathway, well, it's going to adjust. Ultimately, by understanding what's actually going to help you to be that much more effective, to help you to become the type of steward to the children in your life that you desire to be. Scorpio, home, the past, and your living situation become highlighted here, and also your relationship with your family of origin. If you know that there is some area there, some people there where there's some contention, expect some of that to be pushed on, triggered, buttons getting pushed at this time. I'm so sorry to say, but it does happen. But you can practice self-care and decide what types of situations you're going to put yourself in and where you're going to remove yourself and what sense you're going to make of it. For all that, though, it might be now that you feel frustrated around a home-related matter. Buying, selling, moving, attracting a new roommate. It might feel imperative to you in some way, or maybe you've been really pushing, trying to make one of these changes happen, and instead the universe is saying, be patient and pace yourself. This might orient you around your past. You're about to see it very differently in some way, and that can be a very transformative perception. that reconciles you with the past, changes your perception of it, and frees you from any regret or guilt. As you understand what matters, you're able to then launch yourself towards where you're going next. Sagittarius, the siblings, cousins, and neighbors in your life may feel like they want your attention, perhaps very quickly, or maybe they need it. Now, if you know that one of these people is given to dramatic overtures or displays, well, some of that might kick up very strongly at this time. And you get to decide how much you're going to participate. And if one of these people is inclined to push your buttons in some way, trigger some deep stuff, well, it's up to you to decide how you're going to practice self-care at this time. But for all that, this energy might also play out in terms of your understanding of what you're learning, what it is you might be teaching others, what it is that you're processing, wanting to understand, especially on a level of mind. This can be energy that allows you to focus profoundly so on what really matters on a level of mind. If you have something to express, if you have something to share, you just might find your words especially poignant, but they might also be cutting. So choose them wisely. Capricorn, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, and self-esteem. So some Capricorns might experience this energy in the context of your money. And when we have such strong financial energy, it means that the money you need is there. But you may be pouring a lot of yourself trying to make some financial situation more of a reality or to make progress on it on some front. This is energy that asks you to be honest about whether a particular endeavor really is worth it. Is it going to be as profitable as you think it is? Are you making money in a way that just isn't working for you anymore, is asking way too much, or is tiring you out or challenging your ethics? Well, all of that starts to stir very strongly if that is the case. But where it is that you're doing something where your soul feels right with what it is that you are doing and what it is that you are pursuing, well, this is where you get to that deeper truth. You find that understanding that much more at the core of you. And you find a way to then move forward to decide if you're going to keep going on a path or if you're going to adjust course towards something that feels like a more authentic expression. For all that, lots of Capricorns may not experience this financially at all. This might be more oriented around healthy self-love, healthy self-esteem, and you having to look at something honestly and deeply, even if it feels like it triggers something. It really is healing for you now as you get to some essential things within you that you deserve to feel good about. Aquarius, identity, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. Get ready, because this is one of the first. We had this meeting last year in your sign as well, and you've got about 20 years of these meetings coming. And when we have this energy in your sign, it's like you are holding all the intensity, all the feels. But it's also a moment where you get to some deep truth about who you really are and what it is that you want to be different and what it is now that you're ready to accept where maybe you didn't before. Ultimately, these answers come down to you. What's worth dedicating yourself to? What's worth focusing yourself on? And what is the truth about who you really are? Where is it that you have betrayed that? And where it is that you're not willing to betray it anymore? Your answers just might surprise you, but it really is just one part of a remarkable 20-year journey ahead where you are going to truly feel that you are reborn or regenerated or in some way become something more than you were before. When the sun meets Pluto once a year in your sign for the next 2 decades, well, this represents an important moment, an exciting moment, a moment when emotions run very high, but is part of the journey towards a more authentic self. Pisces, soul, psyche, spirit. So much is happening underneath the surface now. So much is stirring within. This is a very restless energy, but in a very practical way, this can speak to the close of certain chapters, in some cases dramatically so, in some cases quickly so. Whether those chapters are of a past or present situation, And this can relate to just about any person, place, thing, or situation. It's also possible with this that something you didn't know, all of a sudden you know, and it brings a lot of energy to the surface, whether it's frustration, and maybe even for a very small percent of Pisceans out there, there might be unexpected feelings of betrayal. Now, the best way to use this energy really is about letting yourself feel what you need and then deciding you're not going to carry it into your future anymore. And in that way, you become free of the regret of whatever has been. You find a deeper forgiveness, not necessarily for anyone else, but at least you're able to move forward with yourself and your life. Dramatic closures are possible, but remember, whatever leaves now is actually really good for you. And it's all part of helping you to align that much more fully with how much more and so much more that you have yet to do in this lifetime. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.